Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly show of Classroom Without Walls, a school for entrepreneurs. My name is I'm the founder of Classroom Without Walls and the host of this weekly live streaming show. This is the very first episode after the new year, after Christmas, after the holiday. So I took a long break from social media, from work. So feeling really refreshed, coming back. I hope everyone had a great holiday and are ready to kick off a new year. You can also listen to the show on the traditional audio-only podcast. Just search Classroom Without Walls, a school for entrepreneurs. On this show, I interview leading social media, digital marketers, entrepreneurs, business leaders to come here to share with us their best practices so that we can future-proof our business. Today, I'm really honored to have Jeff Deutsch on the show to talk about his journey and transformation from being a Google spammer to where he is today, an expert in growth marketing. And of course, we're also going to talk about practical tips that you can apply to your business right away in 2021 to bring your business to a new level. Jeff is a seasoned marketer and entrepreneur. Right now, he serves as the head of marketing for Contact Out. So before that, he has started and sold and run quite a few companies and worked for others and scaled quite a few companies to the $1 million level. And prior to went live, and he and I, we had such an amazing conversation about his work and life in China, really fascinating. And so you are going to walk away from this interview with a much better understanding of how to do marketing in 2021 and what are the trends that you need to pay attention to, what are the social media platforms that you need to pay attention to, and some of the tools and SEO that Jeff uses and endorse. And so really excited. And as always, a big shout out to StreamYard for being a sponsor of the show. Over the last 4 years, I have tried so many different live streaming tools to go live, and StreamYard is my personal favorite. I have a discount code in the comment section that you can check it out. If you use my code, you can use StreamYard for 2 weeks for free. So check it out and shoot me a message if you have a question. So we are live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Periscope. Let me know. I see quite a few of you already here. So let me know in the comment section where you guys are joining us live from, social media wise and geographically speaking. Without any further ado, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. I. And thanks.
That's a long introduction, so thank you for listening.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be here, and this is great. I have to try out StreamYard. I've never tried it before.
Yeah, you will love it. And let me know. You can use my code. Yeah.
All right.
So let us know. I'm based in the US, and let us know where you are actually joining us live from.
So I'm in Sydney, Australia. I'm actually joining from Haymarket, which is like the Chinatown area. We're in a little startup hub here. Yeah.
So nice. It is already Thursday for him. I was really trying to look at the time difference to make sure I don't miss an hour or so. So really honored to have you here. So let's get started. And I forgot to mention earlier, and besides being amazing marketer, you actually produced quite a few pieces of content that actually went viral. And so a few years ago, you wrote this article, which is published on HubSpot, the confessions of a Google spammer. So really interesting. I already shared the link in the comment section, everyone on LinkedIn, so check it out. And so let me know what inspired you to write this article, to come out, to share your journey and to share those confessions. And maybe for those of you, those people who have never had a chance to read this article, so give us a summary of what the article is about and what inspired you to write this really incredible article, which gained 300,000 views and tons of shares. So share that with us.
Sure. Yeah. So my first startup was an SEO startup, but it used kind of some loopholes in Google to, to get good rankings for thousands, tens of thousands of websites. So it was a service that we were running. And I transitioned from running that startup to deciding I wanted to learn about startups. So I started working for some startups when I was in Beijing. And that first one, they actually were sending me to California and Seattle to do a few conferences and start to promote our product. And I realized I didn't know anybody who was in this world, which is, more of a white hat world, like, the traditional marketing, traditional growth world. And so I was going to this conference called SMX, and I wanted to kind of wanted people to, I guess, get to know me. And so I wrote this article as a way for people to get to know me and my background as like a talking point. So at the time it was published originally on inbound.org, which was HubSpot's kind of like social media website. It was like a Reddit for digital marketing. It was a really good opportunity because I did it in collaboration with Dharmesh Shah, who's the founder of HubSpot. He actually asked me to write it after seeing a comment from me. Yeah. And also the head of marketing for HubSpot, Sam Malikajunin. So because they sort of encouraged me, I thought this is a perfect opportunity to tell the world that I'm jumping into, my story and why I wanted to do things differently.
So very interesting. I'm just sharing the screen and everyone check it out. And as I mentioned earlier, the link is also in the comment section. It is such a powerful article. So that's a really interesting journey. So maybe you can share with us, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from this being a Google spammer? And so share some of those biggest lessons with us.
Yeah. So the first thing that I learned is that, in the conclusion of the article, it says that, relationships are algorithm proof. I think in SEO, like people are always chasing, like trying to, feed the algorithm, give it what it wants so that you can get high rankings in Google. But what I realized after kind of because Google actually took the business down, they took us out. Matt Cutts, the head of web spam, actually targeted and removed our entire blog network, which was a huge, it was just a huge event for us, because it basically destroyed our business. So, but after that, what I realized sort of years after was what I should have done after was, go to our thousands of customers and talk to them more, develop a better relationship with them instead of just sort of trying to do everything on my own and, trying to recover and learn on my own. Go out and talk to your customers. And this was sort of my, after 5 years of doing like basically growth hacking, my sort of transition to, okay, now I'm actually becoming a real marketer, and how to become a real marketer.
That's so interesting to hear. And you mentioned this briefly, and I also heard this on a few webinars that you did. So I want you to elaborate more. I think this is so powerful. You said that relationships and personal networks are algorithm proof. Really, really powerful. And I think there are still many people nowadays doing what you used to do, right? So maybe you can elaborate for us what you mean by this statement: relationships and personal networks are algorithm proof.
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned over the last few years is just you can't be an expert at everything, right? There are experts out there who are really good at stuff. And I think that there's sometimes ego or fear or something like that will prevent us from going out and asking a mentor for help, once you're at a particular point in your career, but the thing is there's, instead of trying to learn or try to figure out, how things work on your own. I mean, that's important too. I think asking people for their process is probably the biggest growth hack ever, because most people are willing to share their story. So, I saw people who, we were kind of the blog network game where you make a network of blogs and then you use that to link to your website. And, after Google took us out, I just assumed that was all over. But here we are, it's 2020, 2021, and there are still people making, lots of money doing that. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a very difficult life, but there's still experts out there doing it. And so, we could have probably transitioned or like pivoted the business and done something more with it, but instead we just sort of gave up because of fear and then, I don't know, ego. So yeah, I think whenever I need like help with something, whether it's like analytics or growth or ads or something like that, I'm looking for people who are doing that every day and asking them for their process, not necessarily for advice, but just like, tell me your experience and how you sort of, how you do this well.
That's really interesting. So I'm curious, a few years ago when Google like took you guys down, like how did you feel? What's your emotional reaction? Were you like, oh my God, holy cow, my business is over? So how did you remember this? I know this was a few years ago. What was your very first initial reaction to this? Your entire career is built based on this.
Yeah, panic. I think just total panic. Like, the idea of letting, thousands of people, our customers, letting them all down at once. I remember actually after Google de-indexed our blog network, some of the people, actually about half of our subscriptions were still paying. So we were still doing like, almost $100,000 a month in sales. And so rather than going out and talking to them and saying, well, by the way, this network doesn't work anymore, but your PayPal subscription is still active, out of panic and fear, one morning, I remember sitting there and canceling every subscription by hand. So it's like, and it's like each subscription is like $60, $70. So you can imagine how long that took, like, and I think it was just this, just defeatist attitude. And rather than, going and talking to them and saying, look, what do you want to do next? Like, let's collaborate. Let's work on the next thing, that isn't broken, which probably would have been a lot, it would have been a lot better. I just sort of, I guess, gave up, so persistence, I think, and just being open, I think, with your customers and talking to them openly about what really works and what doesn't about your product, is probably, in the long term, it's what's going to make a career,
That is so true. That is so true. I'm also curious. I remember when you were doing the old approach, I think you mentioned this in the interview with Julia McCoy, which we're going to ask you a question related to education later. And in that interview with Julia McCoy, you said that you pretty much, when you were doing the old approach, you spent 5 minutes working on a piece of content and have that piece of content rank high on Google. I was like, wow, that sounds so amazing, right? So nowadays, how do you approach like content? I know you are still in the marketing space. So can you like share some biggest changes with us and how you are approaching content creation nowadays? What are some of the biggest changes that you have implemented since the last chapter, of your career? Like, what are you doing differently nowadays? Are you still spending 5 minutes on piece of content? If not, what are you doing? Can you maybe share that process with us?
Yeah. So actually, in a sense, like the process that I use now is the same. I mean, to make articles in 5 minutes, that was a program that I wrote that actually was scraping different articles on that topic from article sites, and then it was sort of changing some of the words and putting them together, sticking them together in different order. Where if you tried to read it, a human would know right away this is not real content, but it had all the right phrases and words and contextual phrases that Google wanted to see.
Probably right.
Exactly right, and it had them in the right. It had them in the right density and stuff. So because they were written by somebody else, but Google also considered them to be unique because we were using this process called spinning, where you like replace words, or you take a sentence and you flip it from like active voice to passive voice. But this is all done with machines. So and what's interesting is that that's actually the process for writing, right? You go out, you read a bunch of stuff, you sort of take all this like sort of jumbled mess of ideas, and you put it into a very easy to read sort of article that is just a little bit better than anything else out there. And then people find this, someone who needs that topic, and then they link to it, and that's that's how something becomes viral. So the process is really the same. now. It's just that, wherever you can use automation or tools to kind of find out, I guess, which phrases you need to cover, what sort of topics you need to cover in the article. That's sort of where you kind of get those advantages. So you can use tools like there's a really good one called ClearScope that does that. So the founder there, Bernard Huang, he's actually a friend of Rob's and mine, and he kind of loves this stuff too. But that's exactly what it does. It's analyzing good content, and it's telling you in a tool, hey, you should talk more about this. You should include more like this, so that you're covering all the areas that you should be covering. So yeah,
that's so interesting. And I will share my screen for a second. Hold on, let me make this.
Sure.
So is this what you're talking about? ClearScope?
Yeah, ClearScope. Yep. Very, very good tool. I think, I know it's not cheap, but it's it's the best one. It's the ClearScope.io. Yeah. So it's I think tools like this where you can kind of crunches, I guess, the best content out there, and then it extracts using machine learning sort of what you should be talking about to be relevant and to be interesting to someone, because Google's already published out there the standards for quality. They're right out there, and so if you look at the boxes that you need to tick to do quality content according to Google, they're all basically like saying the same thing, which is use the best scholarship out there, and and then convey that in in an entertaining way for your audience.
Interesting.
So,
I love it. Sorry to interrupt you, because
that's all right.
I think this is a really great approach, because I used to produce content kind of on the fly, right? Because I felt really passionate about this topic. I just started writing. I don't do any keyword search whatsoever. But nowadays, I approach content a lot more differently, because, Julia McCoy is my friend now. And so I will actually, whatever I want to talk about, I will actually start Googling what other people are talking about, to look at the best pieces of content to see how I can actually do better, make my content longer, or cover different things they are not talking about. So you are seeing that the ClearScope, this tool, can actually automatically telling us the best pieces of content out there regarding the topic that I want to talk about. Is that right?
Well, it's actually more like it's telling you the contextual phrases that you should include and what you should talk about in your articles to make sure that it's complete, right? I could pull up, I guess, the Google standards of quality, but you'll see in there it's like being complete, being accurate. Like, would you recommend this content to a friend? They actually had, so what Google did was they hired tens of thousands of humans to go out and read content and review it according to this numbered scale, and then they use machine learning to detect which articles actually were kind of content, and so that's part of their Panda algorithm, which detects whether websites and web pages are quality or spam. So what I did in 2012 would never work now, because Google's worked out how to figure out whether something's kind of quality. It still needs tweaking, but yeah.
Definitely. Google is becoming smarter, right? So we also need to become smarter in terms of our content creation. So besides talking about tools, which is actually one of my questions, besides ClearScope, are there any other keyword research tools or any other tools that you use, and topics? I think one question that I got asked a lot is, or my students Dr. I, what do I talk about? They have no idea what to talk about. So besides this tool, any other tools that you use, SEO, keyword research, or even topic identification?
Yeah, well, I think BuzzSumo is really good, and then I think the Ahrefs, that content tool, is really good, because it shows you which articles and for certain topics have done better than others. So you can kind of you can order the articles by I want this to get shared a lot on social media, so it'll show you for that topic which articles got shared the most on social media, or it could show you which ones have the most value in terms of SEO, ranking for the most keywords, and then you can be I'll write an article more like this. But this is the tactic that you were talking about, I don't know if it sounds very similar to Brian Dean's the skyscraper technique. Yeah, so that's like the classic one in SEO is just whatever's out there. How can I do it a little bit better? And so yeah, BuzzSumo is good for that, and then the Ahrefs content, the content tool, really good. I use those.
Yeah, I love those tools, and I already shared them in the comment section, so check them out, everyone. And also, I remember a few days ago, maybe a few months ago, you posted on LinkedIn another tool called Also Asked. Do you remember this tool?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to share my screen in a second, and so explain to us what this tool is about, because when I first, from your post, and when I first discovered this tool, I thought it was answer the public, right? They look a little bit similar. So let me share my screen, and maybe you can give us a highlight view of what this tool is actually about. And how do you use this?
Yeah. Actually, it's for content. I think for SEO content, for sure, this is an amazing tool. So it's actually what it does is for any keyword that you search, it finds all of the answer boxes that Google would pull up in the search results. And then from that answer box, and it's like, well, if someone expanded this answer box, what other suggested questions would Google put into the search results? And so this is telling you in one screen, okay, if I want to write about electric bicycles, for what are we putting in here? Marketing, for example, right? No, that's great. Yeah. So it'll show you, okay, what would all of the topics that I need to cover be? So you could literally take one of these sort of nodes, like I'm looking down here, how is marketing done? You can write an article about how is marketing done, and then there's your headings right there. The 3 purposes of marketing, the 4 selling strategies, how to start marketing, where marketing is used. So you could literally write an article. Here are your headings. It's all written out there for you. And you're going to get traffic and branding from appearing in Google's answer boxes, right? So the answer boxes, it's a little controversial because, Google will scrape from your article and put them into the answer, which sometimes means that people find the answer on the search results and then they don't need to actually click through to your website, which is not ideal. But it's a really good way to get traffic. There's a guy called Jimmy he's out in Perth. He's got a website called My Online Guy, and he's amazing at this. If you want to, I'm sure if you hit him up, like he gets so much traffic and so much branding for his clients with these answer boxes from the search results. So, but more to the point, it's answering the questions that people tend to ask after they search for something. So after someone searches for what are some examples of marketing objectives there, people will also search what are the 5 common questions, right? So then Google's telling you what people are probably going to search for, and then it's organizing your content for you.
I mean, this they have so many sub branches because I just click on one. So after I click on one at the end, then it generated another graph for me, which is from that sub branch I click it on from the last page, and then give me a bunch of additional things that I can talk about under this teeny tiny sub branch from the last page. Wow, this is really, really powerful. I can see, so if this is something that you use all the time for like content ideas and drafting content.
Yeah, this would be one of the first places I would go for writing for SEO, for sure. If I'm writing for Virality, I mean, that's a little bit, there's like a little bit, it's a little bit different there. For Virality, what I've found honestly works best is like having lots of partnerships. So it depends on who you're, writing with. Like I mentioned that, that Dharmesh actually was promoting that post. Well, as soon as Dharmesh Shah says like, oh, you should read this post, he's the founder of a billion-dollar company. So of course people are going to start, reading it. And that's where like for my article, then, Matt Cutts, ironically, the head of web spam from Google, who shut our business down, he ended up tweeting my article. Rand Fishkin was tweeted it. Neil Patel, like everybody who I had kind of grown up reading about and like sort of learning from, it seemed like they were into this article, and it was because it all came from Dharmesh. So then through that, then I started making relationships with those people. So, I talked to Matt Cutts a bit, I ended up doing like some more content with some of the other people who like had promoted the article, like Larry Kim and stuff. So that's where I kind of, that relationships being algorithm proof, that's where that comes from. Because those people, now I've collaborated with them. When I reach back out to them, like Brian Dean, they know who I am, so you're that much closer to being able to collaborate with them again.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, like last year I interviewed Neil Patel on the show, and it was really because I was engaging with him on his like social media content, mainly on his blog. I was actually leaving and quite a few really meaningful comments, right? Like genuinely share, reacting to his posts, and that's really how we build a relationship. So yeah, I so agree. And speaking of like viral posts, and so besides this one I shared earlier for HubSpot. And last year, I guess not last year. So in 2019, 2 years ago, and you wrote another article and you talked about growth marketing in 2019. You shared 42 plus tactics that people can apply to grow their business with a very lean budget. And you're talking about Google, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So that article also went viral. So I'm interested in learning, right? It turns out you have this special talent to producing viral content. So if you can kind of step back and reflect on, I don't know if you have other pieces of content also went viral, but just like reflecting on this experience, any kind of, do you have like a secret formula that you can share with us in terms of producing content that can gain like so many shares, so many views? If there is like, what is your secret, or it just like kind of happen like that?
Yeah, I think it's just giving, sort of filling a hole in the market, that doesn't exist yet. Like, for example, if you take the Google Spammer article, the reason why it was shared so much was because that audience on inbound.org, the HubSpot audience, they're all about inbound marketing. And so they're charging, they have to, most of them are digital marketers, and they're charging money to people to blog. I mean, HubSpot was like one of the biggest early proponents of like blogging. Even if you're a plumber, go and blog. And even if you're a dentist, go and blog about being a dentist. And so it's very expensive. Like those kind of services, normally you're paying like a couple $1,000s a month or something like that for these sorts of for those sorts of consultants or those sort of marketers to work for you. Whereas you could pay $10 to someone on Fiverr and they'll give you 100 links. So why would I pay you $150 or $300 per link, or $1,000 for a piece of content when I can just pay someone $5 on Fiverr? So that article that I wrote, it was a story that they could just share with their customers who were like, why would I pay you so much? It's like, here, look at, this is the dark side. This is the world of those people who charge you like, a really cheap price and then guarantee results and stuff. So that's, it was understanding that audience and what they needed to use. Like, so that's where that article got shared a lot. But I think, the secret, I think, is really just like, who you mentioned and having a plan for those people in the article, I think, to promote that. Right. So, me mentioning, all those people that I mentioned in the article, talking about Matt Cutts and Rand Fishkin and stuff, and then collaborating with Dharmesh or other people. I think that was like the biggest shortcut to going viral, because then those people are going to share it, right? So like, expert roundups, that's why those work, like doing awards, like, the top 50 marketers under the age of 25, like, or the top 50, so like writing a little snippet about them and then, sharing the article with them and saying, hey, I wrote this, and by the way, I'm giving you this award, and, would love it if you shared it on your socials. Well, if the person that you're talking about has a huge social following, yeah, of course, it's going to go viral if you do that with 50 people. So that's the biggest shortcut, is just partnerships. And you'd be surprised, like you mentioned, Neil, you can reach out to anyone. And as long as you're talking about what they're interested in, and you keep that that initial message short, you can get in touch with almost anybody, and they'll probably, work with you if they feel like you're, forwarding their cause.
Oh, amen, amen. And that's literally, so I remember I have been following Seth Godin for, I don't even know, for many years. And like I listened to his podcast, or when he was a guest on other people's podcasts, he frequently mentioned there's no good textbook on marketing. Being a disruptive educator myself, it's like, amen, I so agree. So that's literally the title, or the very first sentence I used when I emailed him and asked him to be a guest on my show. It's like, I so agree with you. All the books out there are so outdated. They are not training the next generation marketers. And I asked him if he wants to be on my show, and he said yes to me. That was like almost like 3 years ago. Wow. I was very like, I'm still amazing. Nobody. I was even like, that was so fascinating to prove your point, right? When you really do research about this person, you know exactly their position, their opinion, and reach out to them, kind of speak their language. Most of them will say yes. So I agree. Yeah.
There's a little formula that I ran across recently. It's like the 3 R's when you reach out to someone. First of all, like they say, keep it short, right? Because the more popular that they are, the more people are reaching out to them. So it's like they don't have time to read deeply like this long message, So it's like make a maximum of 3 sentences, and it's like the 3 R's: relevance, reward, and request. So it's like you reach out and say, like, just like what you said with Seth Godin, as soon as he sees that, right, he knows that it's relevant to him. If he sees his own words, and someone saying that, that's immediately relevant. And then, the reward. So it's like, I guess you probably said, oh, I have a show, and, I have this many followers, and, I'm going to blast this everywhere across the web. And then it's a request, would you be willing to sit down with me for 15 minutes or 20 minutes? And being really specific about that is like, that's the way to get someone. It's not like, here's my life story and everything that, what this will mean for me. It's like, yes, I would love to help you, but, I have a full-time job and a family. And, I think it's being like compassionate towards those people and understanding like, what's it going to feel like to receive this message,
Yeah, totally. I mean, the shorter, the more concise you can be, the better it is. And I love it. I remember, I think it was a US president, who said that, I'm so sorry this letter is so long because I don't have enough time to make it shorter. So sometimes we really have to think through about not just rambling, right? So I so agree. So talking about, like I mentioned, besides the HubSpot article, and there's another one that you publish on Medium. So let me share my screen. This article is so good, even though you were talking about marketing in 2019 and research. This is the one that published on Medium. I already shared the link in the comment section. Everyone definitely check it out. Such a great read. It's almost like a book, even though you did turn this into a book. And it is so good. So I want you to kind of just quickly refresh, you can skip through. So like for this book, and you shared 42 tactics that people can apply. And this is so relevant for my audience. Most people are solopreneurs, digital marketers, small business owners. And so I wonder if you can, based on this article and based on this book, if you can share some tactics, some of your favorite ones that you share, if you still remember, in this book that you think are still relevant to us in 2021, that we can still talk about, we can still implement to grow our business with a tight budget.
Yeah. I think the number one thing that isn't, it still works, but it's just not done well is just plain LinkedIn outreach. And so in that book talks about this program called Linked Helper, which is amazing, but it's being misused by almost everybody. Like if you're on LinkedIn now, you're probably now receiving more connection requests than ever, and a lot of them have a note in them, and the note is hi, Jeff, I noticed you are a marketer. Let's connect. We can share areas of mutual interest. And it's like, oh my gosh. So they're using that program. So, yes, that software exists, and it can send, you can send safely 150 connection requests per day on LinkedIn. I don't know if anybody knew that. There's also like this rumor floating around that you can only send 3,000 connection requests in the history of your account. Not true. You can only, it's just that you can only have 3,000 outstanding at one time. So, if nobody answers, if nobody actually connects to you, then yeah. But I would say like connecting to people, and here's the thing, it's like making it, as I said, the outreach has got to be that 3 R's, and so you can do that in an automated way, but just be really hyper focused and niche. Like, so if if you are really trying to do, SEO, right? And you want a content writer, you want to hire one, or you want to collaborate with one, or you're doing a podcast on SEO and you're reaching out to people to see if they'll be on the podcast, do that. But then try and make it as hyper focused as possible. Narrow your search down to just people in your city, for example, who have SEO in their title, right? And then make it really specific and 3 R's, right? Okay. Hi, I'm reaching out because I see like you're doing SEO here in Boise, Idaho. That'll catch their attention because they'll be like, wow, someone who's in my same city. And then it's like, the reward. Okay, I'm looking to collaborate with people to do a podcast. I want to try, and it's good branding for you. It's called, here it is. Here's the link to it, or it's called this. And then would you have 20 minutes to talk to me? So I think it's using a combination of like linked helper, but with this more personalized. The more personalized, the better. So like one thing I do now is like to personalize, I'll actually have a virtual assistant do like research on people and like kind of come up with, why I would be interested in them, like a blog post or a podcast that they were on, so that I can mention it in the connection request. And then, if you do that, it's not only like, will the connection rate be higher, but also you have an immediate point of rapport with that person. And when you get on the call, instead of saying, hi, so you do SEO, it's like, wow, I read your article and it's amazing, and it's just, you immediately have that rapport. So I don't know if that's it's a growth hack because nobody's doing that. Almost nobody's doing that at scale. Yeah.
You're so right. I think just like just using automation is no longer enough. I love how you mentioned, have a combination. I do think we still need some sort of automation, but like just relying on that is not enough. But couple automation with some sort of human touch, I love it. Even though, takes more time, at least you are having more qualified leads than like, I would rather have 10 qualified leads than like 100 people who are just like no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, totally. And I know you also love Drift. So I have been using Drift video, and to send like for people I really want to connect with, I will actually record a Drift video and share, like really personalized. I love how they will actually generate a GIF or GIF, whatever you want to call it. So I will actually generate one for you, and you can share the link. You have no idea, Jeff. And people are like, wow, this is amazing. I actually call out their name, like, wow, it's such a like fresh air, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe you actually, like, what can I do for you? I love this so much. This is something I started doing since the beginning of this year, and the response has been really, really good. Yeah. Adding that
personalization now. People expect to personalized outreach, and even if you do connect with someone like with massive spam, it's not going to be a quality connection, so it was worth putting in the time. But you have to have the right balance.
I had my share of mistakes, right? I think when like you were saying this link helper, I think there are just so many automation tools out there. I mean, I tried some. I was like, wow, this is not what I wanted, and then I started to kind of adjust my approach. So speaking of LinkedIn, I noticed that even in that article and in your book, you talked a lot about LinkedIn, and you are also super active. You have a huge following there on LinkedIn. And so I wonder, like moving forward, at least in this year, is LinkedIn still the main platform that you are going to invest lots of time and energy? And so how are you approaching, because LinkedIn is also my main platform. So how are you approaching LinkedIn differently in 2021 compared to like 2 years ago when you wrote the article and the book?
Yeah. I mean, how do I do it differently now? I think I use it fairly the same. I think, the stuff that I talked about then, I'm really surprised that people still aren't doing that. Like, it's so easy to, it's so easy to just take a selfie video, walking down the street, and talk about like the stuff that Dave Gerhardt from, he's now with, he was with the CMO of Drift, or the VP of marketing at Drift. And now I think he's at Privy. Yeah. But he's amazing. And, he was kind of the first one to do this, like, I think it was described as like a, reality TV show, at Drift, where he would just walk around the office and do videos and go, yeah, here's Rich from engineering. He just, created this new cool thing for Drift, and then we're trying it out. We like it, and then suddenly, that cut through all of the, the sort of the boring world of B2B marketing. So I think it's just like, the less boring you can make it. Like, you look at the brands that are doing really well. The one that I'm following now, all of you should go and follow immediately, is Gong. I don't know if you follow Gong, but their content is incredible. They're like doing, basically for B2B sales, they're doing what HubSpot did for like CRM, or like what Drift did for like conversational marketing. Gong is now doing with content. So there's like their head of content, Devin Reed, is insane. Like, he just understands how to do content in a way that like B2B audiences want to hear it. It's like this sort of edutainment, like educational and entertaining at the same time, but then packed with like facts. Because, we want to read it and we want to feel like afterwards, we don't want to feel guilty that we just consumed a piece of content that was entertaining, but we didn't learn anything. So, he'll take like one surprising fact that he learned from like researching Gongs, because they have tons of data. Because what it is it records all of your salespeople's calls, and then it does analytics on it to say, oh, you should use this certain word during a phone call to get a higher close rate. So then they'll be like, wow, it's funny, if you mention pricing at this point in the conversation, you have a 20% higher chance of closing the sale. So they'll take like that one fact, but then they'll make an entertaining blog article out of it, and then it's and a one pager, and it's just, so the way that they do that, I think that's the main thing, is like, follow what those people are doing, follow what Gong's doing, brands like Drift and Gong, and those kind of like brands that are doing it in a more like personal voice, I guess, and do that as well as you can.
Yeah, I love this video. I saw you recently did a kind of walking talking. It just feels a lot more human, approachable than like a really polished, really like, Hollywood production level videos at there. And I love it. I'm definitely going to check out this brand. Is it Gone, their brand?
A Gong, like Gong.
Oh, okay.
Gong.io. Yeah. Yeah. Go do that. Go follow their like their company account. They have this really cool style, which, for their postings, that it's like, just go check it out. You really enjoy it. The way that they write is, it's definitely for this generation.
That's awesome. I just found them. I'm going to share the screen so everyone can take note and check them out. Gone.io. Is that the website?
Gong. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to follow them on their social media. Very interesting. I can see from their logo, like the color design, they already add, like, to me, a sense of humor and not so serious looking, things like that. Yeah, interesting. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. So besides LinkedIn, any other, this is a new year. We're always talking about shiny objects, things new. Any new social media, like, Clubhouse is like really popular. Everyone is talking about it. So like, any new social media that you want to jump on or pay more attention to? Or?
That's funny you mentioned actually Clubhouse, because I was going to say, I was doing like a little bit of research for the call on you and your background. And I was using this tool called Sparktoro. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like, it does basically analysis on anybody's Twitter. So you can find out like what sort of things that they talk about typically. It's kind of like ClearScope, which I talked about for SEO earlier, but for Twitter. So it's made by Rand Fishkin, who was like he was the founder of Moz. And I was running through that, and I ran across like one of the things I like to do when I'm like talking to somebody is to like see kind of who they're most related to. So then that tool actually tells you immediately. And so I see on here like Madeline Sklar, Mari Smith,
Yeah.
Jeff Bullis. And then if you kind of look at
share your
those
screen,
people,
Jeff, if you want, you can share your screen.
yeah, okay.
The bottom
Let
of
me.
the screen.
Okay, I have a million tabs open, so don't judge
join
me.
the club.
All right, I'll share
I always say, how can you? He has like 2 tabs. He was like, how can you even work with a million tabs? I was like, you don't understand us. Yeah.
It's because we're curious about everything. That's why. So okay, I'll have to find your Twitter first.
So this is really cool. Thank you for showing us. I love always.
There we are.
Let me remove the stuff.
Here we go. Okay, so so first it shows you. First it shows you kind of the topics that you typically talk about. So like, say I was like jumping on a call with you and I had like 1 minute to know who you were and to like say some things that might build rapport. I would look at the hashtags. So, I see you talk about digital marketing, content marketing, social media marketing. And then let me see. Yeah, so here's the social accounts. So I might like mention Madeline Sklar. I might look at like the stuff that they're talking about. Mari Smith, I've heard of before, so I might talk about her. But then it's funny that you mentioned Clubhouse, because then looking at her Twitter, like the first thing I noticed when I got on there was she was talking about Clubhouse. So then like, if I wanted to like build rapport with you, I could, say, I was interested in Clubhouse. I saw that, you guys were just talking about, there it is. Yeah. So literally like her first pinned tweet. So I know that that's important to her. And then she's obviously very important to you, or at least to your audience. So it's just like a shortcut to kind of know about people. And then you can also see like, once you dive into the audience insights, you can see like some of the phrases, like some of the things that they're particularly interested in. So like, here's what your audience actually talks about the most. So they love tools. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about tools on the show. Let's make sure we talk about that. Like I guess growth, obviously, things that like where we have synergy. So yeah, I love that. But you were talking about different
that's amazing.
Like the new platforms. So that's where I heard about Clubhouse. So that looks amazing. But I'm a big fan of Reddit still. Like I think Reddit is underused by marketers, because people are literally on there talking all day about their problems. So when I was like, for example, when I was promoting like this new product at Longtail UX, my last company, it was like for running your Google ads. And there was this one particular problem with Google ads called like single keyword ad groups. So anytime somebody talked about that, I would jump in, say, oh yeah, there's automation tools that can actually run this for you. But, if you're interested, send me a DM, I can tell you more. So I would show myself as an authority in the reply. And then that was like the number of meaningful conversations I got started that way was incredible.
Wow.
So yeah, I think Reddit, finding those, finding like following the topics that you're involved with, and then also like just searching to see who has mentioned that as a problem, and then replying to them and getting connected is really good.
Well, I love that. I'm definitely going to check out this Spark tool that you mentioned. And also I agree. Yeah, I agree. I used to like chase, shiny objects. It didn't get my business anywhere other than feeling like exhausted. You felt like you're doing so much, but nothing is actually giving you money. And now like I'm a lot more focused, and I love it. So I recently, my assistant has been, because I actually work in the education space, and he has been joining on my behalf quite a few different Facebook groups related to parenting, teenagers, education. You won't believe how much information that we are literally collecting on a daily basis. I was like, wow, this is like, you know exactly what they're struggling with. So I'm going to add Reddit and maybe even Quora to this like marketing research like bank to really identify those people and understand their pain point. So that's a great idea. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
There is one more thing I was going to say, because Facebook groups are similar in that way of like finding people who are like talking about these, but there's one other tool. There's a guy that I think your audience would really like, a friend of mine called Jared Codling. So I don't know, maybe I can send you his name later, but he has a website called New Hack Every Week. And so he's a coder originally, but then he's an incredible growth hacker, absolutely one of the best I've ever seen. And so he has a tool, I think it still works, that actually can kind of like in real time scrape groups and find certain mentions of certain words. So if someone says, "Oh, I'm having trouble with my hosting," and you're a host, right, and you're trying to promote web hosting, it'll pop up an alert that says, "Oh, this Facebook group just talked about this." You click on it and you can go and immediately talk to that person right away. So that's a really good tool. I would check out that website, and then also or maybe I can find like a way if Jared's still running that tool, but those kind of things, I think it's like, it's not spam, right? Because you're reaching out to people who have a real need, but it's an automated way of collecting interest, people who are already like feeling that pain.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I just saw the website. Definitely going to add it to my list to check it out. So just kind of to wrap this up, I have to ask you this question, because the reason everyone that Jeff and I we connected is through my dear friend Julia McCoy. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us today. Many of you already know this, but in case you don't know, Julia and I, we are actually writing a book together called Skip the Degree, Save the Tuition. It's coming out in a few weeks in February. Super, super excited. We got Seth Godin, Jeff, Neil Patel, all those people in the book. So I want to ask you a question, Jeff, is talking about education. So if you reflect on your formal education, meaning that you go to school, receive the education, how has your formal education really helped you get to where you are today? To what extent and in what aspects? And then I have some follow-up questions on that.
Okay. I would say very, very little. I would say very little. I was reflecting about this, that my career, my college counselor actually tried to discourage me from my dreams and goals and telling me, because I finished up school later. I was actually 26 or 27 when I finished, and he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, "Oh, I want to go to grad school." He said, aren't you a little old? So it's like, and I found that the business world has been the exact opposite. People are so encouraging, so I've learned more from mentors. I mean, you can just reach out to people on LinkedIn who have done the job that you want to do, and just say, "Look, I really want to be a product marketer for Google one day. I see you are one. I know I'm far away, but would you be willing to just talk to me, for 20 minutes and just point me in the right direction?" Or, and then, if you kind of get along, saying, "Look, would you be willing to do this like once a month, just check in and see how I'm going," to actually talk to people who are doing the job that you want to do. I've learned so much more. I mean, I think college teaches you. The reason I got good grades in college was because, I went to all the office hours and I learned all, I got to know my professors personally, so they liked me. I mean, it was like I learned how to do business. Yeah, but in terms of the actual stuff that I learned, I wish I had that money back.
I so agree. So following up on this, let's say that if someone, you have been in this space for quite a few decades. So if a young person, like maybe a college age grad or high schooler approaching you and seeking some life and career advice, so maybe this person wants to become a marketer, if not, in different path. So what advice would you give this person? I ask you this question because it is so common now, because I actually worked in education for more than 2 decades. It seems like most people think that college degree is the only way to life, right? To life success. So I want to hear your perspective, someone I respect so much and being in this industry for so long. So if a young person approaching you and ask you to give this person some career and life advice, what would you share with this young person? Do you think college is still the golden ticket to career and life success? If not, like what are some like options besides the one you mentioned earlier, which I really love, like building, I call this being a professional stalker, building those
Yes.
professional connections. So besides that, anything
Yeah.
you want to share with us?
Yeah, being in a community with people who are trying to solve the same problems and regularly communicating with those people, there's no substitute. I learned SEO from being on forums. I went on forums and I would share what I knew. Obviously you're working on your own, and you're kind of like you're learning from the same sources, so you kind of all have the same starting point. But for example, like, I figured out in 2009 or 10, like, there was this, big trend in buying, in doing forum profile backlinks. So you'd, make a profile on a forum, and then you put a backlink to your website in your profile, and then that would be a backlink. So, you're trying to get as many backlinks as possible. And so I posted a video on, I discovered how to like find as many of those forums as you could use. And then, I said, here's how you do it. Here it is, all for free, and would love to connect. Like, hit me up if you want to, learn some more tricks. And then someone would contact me, and I'd go, wow, you want to know more about how to do this? Like, I discovered this. And then they would share something with me, and then I'd, share it back. So when you have this community of people, I'm sure, you have it. I know Julia has it. You guys do those amazing, like, Twitter chat storms, tweet storms, whatever. And all of those people are becoming experts in in one branch of that tree. And then they're coming back from that journey with all this new knowledge. And of course, they're going to share it with you because you have that rapport. So again, this is going back to the relationships thing. It's like, once you have that relationship and, and you regularly like talk to those people, that's the other thing too, is consistency of like, reaching out to them once a week, once a month, so that it's not like, oh, I need something, and they only hear from you when you need something. It's like, yeah, if you just hit them up on Facebook, wow, I just learned about this cool thing called Clubhouse. Are you on it? Like, I used it and I got some leads from it. This is so cool. That's worth so much more. And I think that's like why most people do MBAs this day, right? It's just to build a network. It's like, it's not even about learn. Yeah. So
yeah, totally. I love how you actually kind of brought up this concept of digital networking. This is something that I work with my students. It is so sad that people have this uneducated fear about social media, and it's hard, believe it or not, in many schools I work with in the United States, they still ban like LinkedIn. Like, I'm talking about high schoolers. And I was like, wow, this is such a professional. I can understand if you ban Facebook, but they don't even allow students being on LinkedIn. But from what you are sharing, it is such a great way for people actually to learn and to cultivate that mentor and mentee relationship, even though, many people I'm working with, I never met in person, right? Like, building that digital connection, so powerful. Yeah.
For sure.
So, yeah, thank you. So there's, I think it's Dan resonating with you, hack college success, right? Like, know what your professor wants so that you can give him or her exactly what they want instead of really like learning this subject matter.
Best, easiest way to get an A ever. Go to every office hour and say, hey, I read this passage in this book and I was wondering what, carry their books for them. I know it's just, it's terrible, like, but it really, if you want to get an A, easiest way ever.
It makes a huge difference. I was a teacher and I love all the people because nobody ever come to my office hour. If someone ever came, I was like, oh, thank you for coming. Like, you made such a great impression. Yeah. So for sure. Yeah. So any parting piece out. So thank you so much for sharing that regarding education. Really appreciate. So any final piece of advice regarding kind of scaling and growing our company, marketing in 2021 that you want to share with us that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
Yeah, there is one more thing, and it's kind of a plug, but it's not. I'm actually looking for beta users, and we're happy to do it for free for Contact Out for a new use case for marketers, and that is, so normally when you want to market to like people on LinkedIn, you have to use LinkedIn ads, and the CPMs are really high. But we have everybody's personal email address, so you can build lists for Facebook and Google to do advertising for Google and Facebook. So you can do, it's like 1/10 the cost of the CPM. So if any of you people want to try that out for free, I'm not going to charge anything to build a list. Say if you want to do a, Facebook ads to, every dentist in California, we could, we can try and set that up for you. So I have one friend who's trying that out now, and he's doing okay. But I, want to try it out because it's a new use case for us.
Oh, wow,
so
I'd
that's
love
free.
to check it out. Sounds really
Sure.
interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. Is there a link that you can share with us, or just go to contact out, go to the website, or just DM you? Like, here's your LinkedIn profile, or
yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and yeah, give me the 3 R's. I saw you on Dr. I's show. I can help you with a case study, and I want to know if I can use your tool. Yeah, so. Yeah.
I love it. Just to recap, right? Relevance, reward, and request.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. 3 sentences. Yeah.
I love it.
Yep.
Make it so easy and makes so much sense. But also separate those people who want to do business with you versus those who are just kind of, want something for free, not really serious about this. Yeah. So
exactly.
Anyway, so yeah, share with us. And how can people connect with you? I have your LinkedIn here, and so everyone definitely connect with Jeff on LinkedIn. As you can see, how much value he dropped for us. So really appreciate. Any other social media channels that you are also active on?
Yeah, you could reach out to me on Twitter. I'm not as active on there, but yeah, I think LinkedIn's really good.
Awesome, great, yeah.
Yeah.
So
thanks so much, Dr. I. Yeah.
Oh my God, great conversation. Thank you so much for your time and early Thursday morning, Australia time. So really appreciate it. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. And so this is the very first episode starting in the new year. And so from this week forward, you will see me every Wednesday at the same hour. And also I'm resuming my show that focuses on education every Friday. So excited to be back. And thank you so much for joining us live, everyone. And make sure you guys check out Jeff and connect with him and using the 3 R's. So I love that.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.